So, as we suspected a little bit, the Coldstream Guards, they absolutely copped it. They turned those guns round because the horse artillery, they could fire on the same time that they turned. Same turn. You know what I mean. And then the infantry also went round and had a go at them as well. So because that supply wagon is quite vulnerable, you can see we actually captured less supplies than were initially there. I'm just going to bring it out of the way there. I'm going to move these guys around to the flank, turn them round so that they're facing now, and the guns, unless they bring them round again, can't harm them this turn with defensive phase fire. We've got enough points to put them into line formation, bring as many guns as we can to bear, and I'm going to have a go at weakening or softening up the Ligurian troops. Okay, let's soften them up a bit further with some cannon fire. It was a good shout last time, putting the 95th down there. We don't have that many men. However, that skirmisher protected them because the line troops that came down there had to actually deal with the skirmishers before they could deal with that main body of troops. These guys are on their flanks, so they get a flank modifier, or an advantage in firing from the flank. And these troops are disordered. I'm actually going to put them back with their parent unit. Because they're disordered, we cannot actually put them back into their parent unit. However, we do have the foot guards coming up on the from down here, and bring them into this box and fire on them in column. And the reason I went for these guys is because there's over 500 of them, and these guys up here looks like pioneers. Yep. There's only what 40-50 of them top, so they're not much threat. Even though they're up on higher ground on my flank, they're not much, or front centre if you like. They're not much threat to me, so I'm not actually bothered about those. What I'm going to do is include now the foot guard as a whole, if you like, the skirmishers and the parent unit, and we're going to melee these guys here. So select them all, right click, and we got them out the way. We pushed them back. We did get disordered, however we have got 2 leaders there, so hopefully they'll be able to sort that out during the next turn. We've got a skirmisher down there. One thing with the John Tiller games, what sometimes happens is you get routed units behind your lines that sort themselves out and then attack you from behind. It's just one of those little things. It's when you're playing against another human player, it's not so bad, or some people do it. But it's not really the done thing. It's a little bit underhanded, but the AI doesn't know any better, doesn't have any manners if you like, so it's just something we've got to deal with. I'm not going to bring that skirmisher down there. I'm going to bring him back up into the main fight itself, and we'll bring Van Alten right into the fray to lead the 95th on the next turn. Cavalry are going to remain where they are, and again, not a lot else we can do right now. Okay, so I actually moved those line troops out of where the artillery are. The artillery turned around as we expected and is now facing these Coldstream Guards in their entirety. Move our supply wagon out of the way a little bit more just to protect it. Now we can see probably these troops up on this step here, so we have a look. Yep, our artillery can now see these troops, so we're going to soften them up with a volley or a salvo. And that will have an effect on taking some men, some casualties, and reducing their combat effectiveness, their fatigue. Now, with this skirmisher, I'm going to bring him round here and have a go at this skirmisher. Just because ideally, I want the 95th to already have that skirmisher out of the way so they can have a crack at these guys up here, and then eventually we can get behind this artillery and then melee it and hopefully take the victory location. So we've had a go with firing, he's disordered, but we'll still have a go meleeing. So we didn't get him out of the way, not to worry, I'm sure. The 95th will. Because we don't have multiple infantry melees, we can't. We've meleeed once already this turn. Only cavalry, because I've got that option available. Only cavalry can have multiple melees. What I am going to do though is bring my cavalry into the fray. Because none of these units up here would have actually seen that cavalry until now, or they may have had an idea from earlier, that might change their way of thinking. They might bring those guns right around, and they might bring these troops from over here. So we'll see what they do and how they react to that cavalry. This is a little bit disconcerting. I could have a go at that artillery in line, just give them a blast with our muskets and then charge them. However, it wasn't the most realistic thing to do to charge head first into the artillery with them firing canister shot. So what I will do is bring them down here in line, because they'll get a defensive fire shot if I was to change formation. So I'm going to bring them down into line here. Turn around, have a go from the side. We took one of their guns and then melee them in line from the side. There we go. Because I flanked it, they didn't have that chance to defensive fire on me when I decided to melee. And they also, because it was from the side, it was a flank attack, we also got a modifier that increased our attack potential. We'll give it one more go, just to see what the French do. So interestingly, that cavalry had the effect of this infantry here turning into square formation. They were frightened by that cavalry, so they thought we had to defend ourselves. So they went into square formation. Perhaps a little bit early, perhaps a little bit unrealistic, because they're dealing with infantry. That was the immediate threat rather than the cavalry. We'll have a look here and give them a blast. Okay. Now, we've got all these infantry, and they all look to be facing the other way. They didn't turn around, very rude, showing their back to us. So to that end, we're going to give them a volley fire. And we'll continue our melee with bayonets charged. It's the guards. They do have a little bit of fatigue, but because it's a guard unit, they will reduce their fatigue, or their fatigue will go up, should I say, at a slower rate than other rated troops such as B and C. Okay. The potential is now that a French unit could go back up and retake that victory point. However, it wasn't just I wanted to get that victory point, we've got to secure it as well. And I thought the best way of securing that was actually to deal with this infantry back here. Okay, we're still disordered, however we do have that infantry in square. It's quite a nice target. They don't have the biggest defensive bonus in square against infantry. They do against cavalry. But we'll soften them up. And have a go. Oof. That wasn't the best. That's because there's still over 500 of them. They're not disordered. They have a leader with them. Our unit, our foot guards, were disordered, and they had to go up to the high ground, so they would have had a combat disadvantage whilst attacking. Plus it's square, so they do get a defensive bonus against infantry, but just not as much against cavalry. These guys up here, there's not many of them, so we'll bring the 95th up. We'll put those back with the parent unit. We'll give them a go. Soften them up with volley fire. Attach bayonets and melee. Okay, so we actually got rid of them. So as I mentioned, another role of skirmishers, whilst we have these skirmishers roving around in our rear, potentially harming Wellington. So we'll get Wellington right out of the way. New headquarters up in this big building in Castile de Montjuic. Terrible with names. Terrible with names. Bring the supply wagon up there with him. Yeah, skirmishers also acted as a rear guard, so we can actually float them around in the aft, dealing behind us and deal with anything that appears there. We'll bring our cavalry a little bit closer, just in case we do manage to rout these troops up here, then we can charge them down. Very juicy, easy target, routed troops for cavalry. Okay, hopefully that artillery can still see those troops, so we'll have another go at them. Not that good. We'll turn these guys around. Okay, we've softened them up with a volley fire, and now we're going to attach bayonets and melee. There we go. We'll bring the 95th up. They went through a disorder check probably because of the proximity of those troops there. Bring them up to the VP. There we go. Bring the skirmisher in the rear, acting as a rear guard. And I'm not going to have a go at this infantry in square with cavalry. That's not ever a good idea. So what I'm going to do is use these troops to come and charge these skirmishers and hopefully take them out of the frame. So go to charge across the screen, and there we go, we overran those units. Okay, I'll leave it there. We took the victory location. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was basically about putting everything together from the other videos into a combined armed tactic and how you can take a reasonably well defended position. Okay, we had the numbers, but they had the high ground, and hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it was helpful. Please do leave some comments with all these videos if you do find them useful. Make sure to watch the other videos if you haven't. There's some on artillery, there's some on movement, command, cavalry and infantry, as well as basic combat resolution. Okay, thanks for watching guys, I appreciate it, appreciate the comments, and happy gaming.